أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh once again on Youth Matters with me, your host, Sakina Habib. Inshallah, as for today's discussion, we will be continuing on our series that we have been talking about. Now, the topic of today's discussion is about the practical lessons that we can gain from the Ahlul-Bayt alayhimus salam. Now, often during the first 10 days of Muharram, we see the sacrifices and attributes of the male individuals who were present in Karbala. For example, the sacrifice and contribution of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, of Hadrat Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, Janab Hur, Shah Qasim, Janab Ali Akbar, Zuhair bin Qayn, and the likes of these individuals. And after the 10 days of Muharram, after the Ashura, we see the true message of Karbala entrusted in the hands of women as well, the female individuals who were present in Karbala. Therefore, today we would like to discuss about the role of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam, both of the male's representation as well as the female's representation, and not only in Karbala, but even before Karbala and after the aftermath of Karbala. And what lessons can we apply in our daily lives from the personality and the attributes and traits of these holy individuals, the infallibles, our Masumin, alayhimus salam. As you all know that we are continuing our Muharram series with our respected Sheikh Dr. Mehdi Hazari, all the way joining us from the USA, who will be taking us forward in today's discussion as well by sharing his wisdom of knowledge with us about the role of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Without much further ado, I would like to welcome our respected Sheikh on board once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me again.
It is our utmost pleasure to have you once again on Youth Matters and to talk about the importance of the message of Karbala. And of course, today's discussion is about the role of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So inshallah, we will be talking about that. Now, Sheikh, my question to you, and of course for all the viewers, so that you can enlighten them, would be that could you tell us further on today's discussion about the role of Ahlul Bayt that we see in Karbala?
Sure. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So let me begin by saying something a little more generally. And that is that the worth of each human being, men or women, male, female, age, irrespective of age, background, ethnicity, the worth of any human being is determined by Allah. And obviously by the adherence of that person to the code that God has created and what God deems to be appropriate and lofty and proper. And thus, the potential that any human being has to exact change in the world is their own, and only Allah knows that potential, and only they do. Why do I say this?
Right.
Because we don't determine our worth and our potential to cause a change in the lives of others, in ourselves, because of what society tells us or because of what other people around us tell us. It is Allah who has given you that duty and that capability and that capacity. Hence, when you look at Ahl al-Bayt, you recognize that these are individuals who they influence the lives of other people because of what God had given them, because of the beauty that God had instilled inside of them, and because of the natural strength, resilience, and piety that they had inside of themselves, the men and the women in this case. And so when we talk about their role in our lives, we are talking about every aspect of life. Life, not just that is static, that is comfortable and easy. So essentially, when we're at rest and everything is good and life is smoothly moving forward, then we take the
Mhm.
example of Ahlul but also when life is dynamic, when life is changing, when there is flux, there is upheaval, even then you can turn to the Ahlul Bayt to learn from them as role models. And that goes not only with respect to faith, with respect to belief, with respect to our relationship with Allah, but also with respect to how we act and how we interact with not only other people, but the environment in front of us. And so, before moving forward anymore, what I would say is that the role they play is to impart on us the wisdom of action, is how to take belief, deepen that belief, and convert that belief in a manner such that the action that results from it is wise, prudent, and achieves the goal that is necessary. That is what they do for us. They show us how to translate our belief into prudent action in every circumstance of life.
Very well said, Sheikh. Let us take, for example, the example of Janabi Hur, salamullahi alayh. So, as we can see that Hur realized his mistake before time, and he came to the tent of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he repented. So I think that is one of the most beautiful examples that we can actually relate and connect to in our lives as well, because there comes this moment that where your conscious tells you and realizes that now I need to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it just comes to you as that you have realized your mistake. So I think that this is one of the best examples that we can connect to and we can relate to. Now, if we talk about religious adherence, what is important at every stage and circumstance to maintain the religious adherence?
Yes, so obedience to God is utmost. That is the first step. And we are mukallaf. We are those who have obligation placed on our shoulders. So we must be obedient. I think, in an answer to that question, which is a great one, is that it's easy to be obedient. What is the obligation on us in any time when life is easy, when there is nothing confounding me, when there is nothing pulling me in the opposite direction? On the other hand, when there is something contradicting or conflicting with the duty that I need to carry out, then that's when we run into trouble. And those are the moments that we need to identify. Particularly, I think this to myself, that as a father, should I be teaching my children how to pray when it is nice and easy? They're sitting at home and it's comfortable and everything is available and they don't have other like schoolwork to do or other things to do? Or should I also teach them about that and how they should pray when they're flying on an airplane? Or what would happen if, God forbid, time of prayer came or time of prayer was lapsing, they had not prayed, and maybe they only have a small bottle of water to do wudu with? How would they manage something like this? Meaning, how would
Very
you
well.
deal
Yeah.
with circumstances that are not normal and still be able to fulfill what you need to fulfill? That is sort of the goal for us. We shouldn't assume that everything is going to be easy and perfect every time. We should prepare for difficult situations because they will come eventually, and then we'll be ready for that. And that is what you learn from Ahl al Bayt. Why? Because their lives were difficult. Their lives were so strained, particularly after the time of Al Imam al Sadiq, alayhi salatu wassalam, the lives of Al Imam al Kadhim, Al Imam al Rida, and then even more so, Al Imam al Jawad onwards became very difficult, very strained, very restricted. They could not do anything without the eyes of the ruling regime upon them. And so, what a way to learn for us, and what a sad state of affairs it would be if we didn't learn.
Exactly, Sheikh. And sometimes it gets very difficult to even deal with companions or adversaries because you have to deal differently based on the circumstances that you have to deal with these individuals, and we see that on the plains of Karbala very explicitly. So if we were to deal with companions and our adversaries in today's situation, what would some of the ways be? What would it be? How would it be?
Yeah, wisdom would be the key for something like this, right? That when dealing with those who are companion or close to you would depend on the direct relationship, and certainly that interaction would not be the same as the interaction you would have with an adversary. And in
Right.
any case, or either case, wisdom is necessary. Why is wisdom necessary? Because in those circumstances, the primary question that needs to be addressed, whether with a companion or with an adversary, is that how
Yes.
do I fulfill the right of that person, companion and adversary? Each has a haqq that has been assigned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my job in dealing with them is to ensure that I fulfill that haqq without doing israf, without being extravagant, without going too
Right.
much in one direction, being overly doing for the companion, or God forbid, going the other direction and not doing enough. And in the same way with the adversary, and dealing with the adversary such that their haqq is preserved as well. That has to be foremost. And what that requires is that to some degree you have to take emotion out of it, because it's human nature that when you see your friend, you smile, you're more apt to doing for your friend. Your heart is open
Mhm.
to your friend. To an adversary,
Yeah.
your heart is not open. You feel maybe a little bit of aggression, God forbid. You feel some animosity towards that adversary. And yet, when you deal with them, you should not deal with them in that manner. That was one of the beautiful things of the Ahlullbayt alayhim salatu wassalam, that they never dealt with their enemy in that manner. And you know the reported story about the man who had been captured in the Battle of Nahrawan, and his hands had been tied, and Imam Hussein was walking by him, and he said, "Ya Hussein, these ropes are tight around my hand. Will you loosen them? Please ask the commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen, to loosen them." Imam Hussein went to his father. He said, "My father, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, this captive has asked me to loosen the ropes. Can I loosen those ropes?" Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, "My son, if only you knew who this man was and what lies in the future at his hands or from his hands, you would not ask this of me." And yet Imam Hussein, he says, "But my father, he asked through me. He asked through me." And again, that is not to say Imam Ali was unjust, God forbid, or that he was cruel, God forbid. This is really a lesson for us to understand.
Yes.
And yet Imam Hussein, he said, "My father, he asked through my name. So I must oblige." And lo and behold, when the rope was loosened by Imam Hussein after Imam Ali alayhi salam gave the permission, it was loosened from those same hands that took the life of Imam al-Hussein. And so what do we learn from this? That even to the adversary, deal with justice. That doesn't mean to be blind. That doesn't mean to allow them to get the upper hand on you or allow them to rob you of your dignity. But definitely do not
Exactly.
lower yourself in front of them and stoop to their lowly level.
Subhanallah, thank you for sharing that beautiful story as well. It really has a deep lesson in it. And we see a lot of circumstances and situations in the lives of the Aimma alayhim wasalam who have really shown mercy, at the hands of the enemies. And it really amazes us sometimes that it's very difficult to show that forgiveness, that side of, rahmah, they say, in front of the enemies. But subhanallah, our imams had that resilience and that tolerance and that patience in them that they were able to do that. It's just amazing. Now, Sheikh, could you share with us when it comes to behaving in a certain situation, what are some of the models that we can follow?
Yes, so let me answer it from this perspective. You are searching for qualities that you want to emulate, right? And that's the beauty of our religion. That yes, we have the best of examples in Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad alayhim as-salatu wassalam. But indeed, if you see a beautiful quality, I'll give you an example. I had gone to a dinner with some friends of mine back. I was in college at that time, and these friends of mine were not Muslims, but they were devout
Okay.
Christians. Good friends of mine from high school who I had known since I was very young. And we were at there for dinner, and we were eating dinner together. They had their food, and I was eating vegetarian, not eating anything that was not halal.
Not
But I was
halal.
sitting,
Right.
yes, I was sitting next to a good friend of mine, and on the other side was another person who was another guest who I did not know very well, but we had come to talk. And we finished eating, and I noticed that they had brought some baked chicken, and the chicken had been wrapped in like an aluminum foil. And after he finished, he had not finished the food in his plate. He took some of the aluminum foil that was on the baked chicken. He tore it. I was watching. I was trying not to be nosy, but I saw him tear the aluminum foil, take the chicken from his plate, and put it in the foil and just wrap it up and put it to the side. I very politely asked him, I said, that was strange. Why did you just do that? He said, well, I was too full and I didn't want to stuff myself and be gluttonous, but I also didn't want to waste this chicken. So I'm going to pack it up and I'm taking it home with me. Um, I thought that was just such a great thing. And
Yeah.
he's a Christian, but his akhlaq was so high that I felt what a great thing to see in a human being and to learn from. And that's why when you say you want to learn from the model of people, you want to see good akhlaq. You want to see good qualities and learn from those qualities. One of the greatest qualities, I think, is magnanimity. That's what Islam teaches. Haya or dignity. This quality of dignity is something that you see so greatly in the Ahlul-Bayt. And if you see in their lives examples of it, when Rasulullah came and liberated Mecca in the 8th year after Hijrah, how did he act? He was magnanimous, he was dignified, he wasn't cruel and unmerciful. Same way Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, when he defeated the enemy at Nahrawan, how was he towards them? Or the opponents in the Battle of Jamal, how did he act? Magnanimous. He was not cruel.
Yeah.
He was not vindictive. Imam Hassan the same way. Imam Hussein the same way. That
Yeah. Very true.
when they came and their soldiers were thirsty and dying of thirst, what happened? He gave them water. And even one soldier was so thirsty, about to collapse off of his ride, Imam Hussein said, lean your head forward and I will give you water with my own hands. He gave him the water, only to be denied not long after on the plains of Karbala. Magnanimity is that high, lofty quality, such that no one can ever say that you have lowered yourself in front of anybody and acted in a debased manner.
Thank you, Jazakumullah, Sheikh, for the beautiful and very inspiring answers, especially the story that you experienced with your high school friend who was a Christian devout. It is true because there are so many communities out there, of different religions, and sometimes it becomes very challenging for us to deal with them. For example, even today, when we commemorate Muharram, there are so many questions that are raised by the other school of companions and other people from different faiths, that why do you not celebrate the year, the Islamic year is the beginning of the year. And that is where we need to tell them and show them the importance of the tragedy of Karbala, that we begin our year by mourning over Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he did all of that to save the religion of Islam. So it is very true that our behavior and our akhlaq is very important to represent our character, our personality in front of someone. And I think this is a great message for the youths out there to take inspiration from this lesson of today. Jazakallah, Sheikh. Thank you so much for joining in on today's episode. And I think you have really enlightened us on today's topic about the role of Ahlul Bayt. Jazakumullah khairan.
It's my honor.
Thank you so much, viewers. Inshallah, stay tuned for tomorrow's episode once again with our esteemed Sheikh, Dr. Mehdi Hazari. And inshallah, in tomorrow's discussion, we will be talking about piety and modesty and what are some of the levels that we can take on to make our taqwa stronger. So please join us tomorrow, same time, 8:30 a.m. with me, your host on Youth Matters, only on Hidayat TV. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.